What is up? And welcome to another episode of the Gift of Gaming podcast. Do you like monkeys? Do you like spies? Do you like pirates? Do you like bears who have birds as pals? Well, then this episode is for you. The Gift of Gaming podcast. All right, I'm your host, Darren Wade, the old reliable, here every week. I got nothing better to do. But on this week's episode, I'm joined by my good pals, Luke and Craig. So, Mr. Xbox Games Pass himself, Luke Maycock. How the hell are you, buddy?
I'm great, man. It's good to be on the Rare episode. I'm a big, dumb baby when it comes to Rare, so I'm looking forward to learning some new stuff about the history of the company and that kind of thing.
So for those who didn't know, this episode's about Rare. Thanks for the spoiler, Luke.
Oh,
Jeez.
I thought you teed that up well enough. Oh, I'm so sorry. I've ruined everything.
Well, that's it. You're fired. You're out of the podcast. But also with me today is Craig, the critical Nolan. Craig, how you feeling?
How you doing, Darren? Thanks for having me on.
No, yeah, I'm good. I'm doing good, man. I'm happy out. I'm excited about this episode, talking about some serious games from my past. So for those who didn't know, the episode was going to be about Rare, big surprise. But it's about Rare, the company. I hope you're all excited about that. So yeah, we kind of thought we'd... Well, actually, before we get into it, let's not rush this, fellas. How you been? What games you playing? Luke, you been playing anything recently?
Yeah, I'm actually trying to rack my brains and remember what I've been playing. As always, I've been playing a bit of League of Legends because I hate myself. But also, I played a bit of Metal Hellsinger again because I only played that on... what was it, the cloud gaming service last time, and it was kind of not a great game for that. So I fired up a bit of that. I played through a couple of worlds on it, and it was pretty fucking fun.
It is a fun game. Yeah,
it's a cool idea, and I kind of sunk my teeth into it a little bit deeper, gave it a bit more of a chance, and it was grand. But other than that, not a whole lot.
That's been you. What about you, Craig?
And it's been a weird one for me as well because I'm still playing Fire Emblem Engage, but my interest is
waning,
is dwindling massively.
Which is that's a pure sign that it's not a great Fire Emblem game because you're usually quite.
I cleared the last one 3
times.
You're
usually quite engaged.
All 3 houses. Yes. I was trying to think of a pun, and I was just like, my attention is
so
dwindling.
Not engaged.
Less engaged. No, it didn't.
So if you were to give it a mark out of 10 off the top of your head so far, where you put it?
For Fire Emblem standards, it's so far down the list. And for me, the Sacred Stones is the highlight, followed by the games with Ike, like Path of Radiance and Radiance Dawn. They really had large scale stories to tell, whereas this one is really just... there's an evil bad guy. Let's fight the evil bad guy, and all the characters just want to beat the bad guy, and are all universally jolly and not. They have no past, present, or really anything going on other than their country is at stake.
With each iteration of Fire Emblem, I have felt that the narrative has taken a hit. With Three Houses, it got a little bit better, but I felt even then with Three Houses it was the same story told 3 times with a different color.
Oh, it was completely, but at least in Three Houses, there was 3 rival factions type of way, and they were all under the one roof, and you didn't really know what way it was going, and there was a couple of twists in there which I won't spoil, but this one is just so much like the one with Corrin with Fates, I think it was called. It's just so vanilla.
Yeah, it's a pity. I myself am excited today because today I can play Hogwarts Legacy. Speaking of which, I better do some housekeeping for the podcast for all our listeners. So we've got our normal episodes which happen every single week. It's these ones where we just chat shit about whatever. Sorry, that's as good as it gets, everybody. And then at the end of every month we have a news episode, but kind of in addition to our normal programming, we are hoping to introduce this thing called the Gift of Gaming Club, where we will talk about games that, a couple of us will play together, not together, but we'll be playing at the same time, and we'll meet up usually kind of 4 weeks after it's come out and kind of talk about how we're getting on with what we like and what we don't like. And the first one we've chosen for our Gift of Gaming Club is Hogwarts Legacy. So it comes out this week. So for all our listeners who are keen on buying it and want to kind of it's not exactly like a play along, but if you want to get your teeth sunk into it and hop back on 4 weeks from now, a month from now, whatever else, and listen to us kind of talk about how we feel it's going up to that point, because we all have full-time jobs. None of us here are gonna. Maybe I might finish that game before the next one. I might put some serious hours into that. So that's kind of a new episode that's coming up. It won't interrupt your regular programming of bullshit talking that we do, but it'll be there. Add it in. So so this week it comes out. A couple of us are going to get it. We're going to play it, and we'll kind of meet up in a month's time to discuss how we're getting on with it. It will probably be a spoiler-esque thing. We'll talk about, like, let's see who has gotten the least furthest in the storyline, and that's probably as far as we'll go debating the storyline, but we'll talk about all the tips and tricks that we've learned, cool things, and, like, and hopefully we'll do that regularly as games go on. But our first one, it will be Hogwarts Legacy.
And this won't be like a review or anything, right? We'll just be sitting around talking about the game.
Yeah.
So for all our listeners who would maybe think, oh, let's wait a month and see how they feel about it, that's not what we're doing.
we'll give a review on the likely 40% of the game we'll have finished. So if you're looking for a full review, we're not your people. We don't have the time to do that.
So buy it now and don't wait for our
Don't wait
opinion.
for us. Yeah, because we ain't finishing it for a while. Yeah, so that's kind of what's up and coming with the podcast. That's what I'm hoping to get my teeth sunk into today. And otherwise, I have hopped back into the world of Triangle Strategy. I've taken that up again.
Oh, very good.
Because I played it for a little bit, but then Horizon Forbidden West came out, and that just disappeared off the face of the earth. And Triangle Strategy, terrible name, great game.
Yeah. Terrible name.
Awful name. Like, completely, you won't remember that, doesn't stick in the mind at all. But my God, is it a fun game? Hard game, but fun game. Yeah. And also, Luke, you didn't say it, but, I was there watching you the other night. You're a Fall Guys professional now.
Oh, that's what else I was playing.
Yeah,
I completely forgot.
Don't sell yourself short, man.
Yeah, I played Fall Guys for the first time this week. It was sick.
So, to put it in perspective, I've been playing Fall Guys since it came out. I've never won.
I've never won either, but I didn't realize you had to physically grab that crown when you jump. So I failed like 4 or 5 times. Do you know that final mini game where you have to race to the crown?
Yeah.
But when you jump up, you actually physically have to press a button to grab it.
Yeah.
And every time I played that game, I just jumped and he never grabbed it. And I always just
so
thought my jump was off.
Yeah.
I'd like to say I should have. I'd like to say that's my excuse as well, but I've never gotten to the crown to grab it. So I've just been terrible. But lo and behold, I just walk in and Luke's playing Fall Guys. I'm like, how you doing? He's like, I won the last 2 games.
Whoa.
So I'm awful at Fall Guys, I've learned. And Luke's great.
I always looked at people playing it and I was like, yeah, this is a game I'd be good at. I don't know why. It's just like a spatial thing. It's just my kind of game. Like, it's just the kind of thing that I...
By that, do you mean you have high-speed internet?
Yeah, super. Well, listen, Craig, I have the same speed internet as Darren does, so if I can win
dude, you didn't have to rub it in like that,
No, it was...
I try.
Do you know what? I don't know what it was. So, yeah, we played a couple of nights ago.
Yep.
And we were kind of handing the controller off back and forth, and you got to the final round down to one person.
Yeah,
this was
the closest I've ever got to winning Fall Guys, Craig. It was a 1v1 on this level where the ground's dropping below you slowly, but you also get to pick up these balls that will slowly blow up, so you can toss them to the guy. Oh. Fall Guys has come a long way since we played it the first time.
That's definitely a new game.
Yeah. And it was me. It was me and this guy. We got the rest of them out. It was just me and him, and I was like, "This is it." Luke's watching me, Lauren's watching me. They know I've never won. This is my big moment, just my big gaming moment. And no, he whooped me and I died. And that was hard. That was a hard one to take.
It was so sad as well because you played a round before that and didn't get past the first round, and you're like, "Oh no, I'm going to bed." And me and Lauren were like, "No, play one more game."
I could have been my crowning moment. Yeah.
Darren, describe Luke and Lauren's face as you turned around, having been defeated.
Both of them laughed first, which hurt. And then they both were sympathetic, which was nice, But they laughed first. I'll remember that.
Good. I'm glad they had their priorities straight.
No, Fall Guys is fun, but I thought it was worth bringing that up, Luke, because I was very impressed with your 2 wins, having never seen a win in that game.
It was something about I'm going to play down at the success that I had because I played it on. We had a bank holiday here on Monday, a new bank holiday in the country, and
Yahoo!
I was kind of doing nothing in the middle of the day, so I hopped on. And the people that were playing on the middle of a Monday weren't great. Like, it wasn't too hard. I won twice in a row, and then I got to the final
Don't sell yourself
round.
short, Luke. I've played it every time on every day, and I've never won.
Okay, fair. I'll take the W then. No, it's good. It's fun. Super fun game.
Easy pick up and play.
And are there a lot more new games than there were before?
Yeah, so they've done a couple of seasons since because we picked it up and it was just that kind of very, and like I said, it's still very multicolored, but it definitely had
everyone
that
was in
theme.
a hot dog costume.
Yeah, exactly. And it's come a long way because there was even a time where they had a limited edition Aloy from Horizon costume that you could get, and you see loads of stuff. There was we were clicking through characters while we were because you were so good at it, Luke, that you would cross the finish line and we'd be waiting for ages for everybody else to cross the finish line. So we were flicking through characters. There was the Undertaker.
Oh, the Undertaker.
There was a person dressed up as the Undertaker from
WWE.
Yeah.
It's so funny looking.
So it's come a long way since we played it. But that's not what we're here to talk about, gentlemen. That's not what we're here. We're here to talk about Rare gaming, or Rare. I have it written down, but actually Rareware. Rareware. See, I've done my research, Craig.
I mean, yeah, if
I've
you
done my
look up
research.
Rare games, you're not going to find any games made by Rare.
No.
So they were smart to do that.
So we were kind of like, for us when we were talking about episodes that we'd like to do, especially for you and me, Craig, we played a lot of Rare games in the 90s. We kind of thought, well, let's talk about Rare being kind of king of the 90s when it came to video games, because they were so good back then.
Well, I considered them like absolute top dog.
Yeah.
You know,
one of my favorite games, it would definitely be in my top 5. Well, but maybe not. I would like to think it could make it my top 5 games of all time in the, early 2000s, late 90s. I'll have to double check when it exactly came out, but it's got so much stuff. So I thought we'd give, for our listeners who aren't overly familiar with Rare, I'll give a little brief kind of backstory of kind of where they came from, where they're at today. And we were thinking we'd just go talk through some of those amazing games that they came out with. So they were established in 1985 by Tim and Chris Stamper. I'm assuming brothers, if they both have the same name, or that's a massive coinkydink. And in its early days, it was like really well backed by Nintendo, of all people. Nintendo were like, we see something good here. Here's loads of money. Make good games, and off you go. And after the release of Donkey Kong Country, I think, if my reading from Wikipedia is correct, that's where I get all my information, everybody. They supposedly kind of, after the release of Donkey Kong Country, Nintendo knew that they were onto something here and kind of upped their stake in it. I think, Luke, you and me were talking, you said it was around about a 49%.
Yeah, they made them a second party developer and didn't buy a majority stake, but 49% stake. Yeah.
So they brought out Donkey Kong Country in 1994, which was like critically acclaimed, and went on to start selling their games under the name Rareware throughout the 90s. That was their name. I can even picture the symbol coming up on screen before.
It's a great symbol.
So good, yeah, so good. So received critical acclaim for the Donkey Kong Country series, as well as GoldenEye, Banjo-Kazooie, Perfect Dark, which we'll get into for sure, and Conker's Bad Fur Day, which I believe is up there in some of your old-time favorites.
One of my gems of gaming, yeah.
And then in 2002, which was like the dark day for Rare, it was acquired by Microsoft. Well, I'm going to say dark day, but things kind of petered off for Rare after that. So after the 2002, they made games such as Perfect Dark Zero, which was meant to be kind of like the sequel to the original Perfect Dark, which wasn't as well received as I had hoped, and who most people who had played Perfect Dark had hoped. And then went on to make games like Viva Pinata. They had a lot to do with the Xbox Kinect games and the Kinect technology. And also, as recently as 2018, I think that's their most recent game, is Sea of Thieves. Which, Luke, that's where your expertise lies. You're the only one of us who's played Sea of Thieves, right?
Big fan. Big Sea of Thieves fan.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, fans and former employees have come out to say that I've been quite critical since the acquisition by Microsoft, to say that the output of Rare since the 2002 acquisition has been, well, not what they would have hoped. And it's clear. I mean, if you go on and do a quick Google search of what games came out pre-2002 to post-2002, their collection is unbelievable. So we'll get into that. Craig, what would be, I say Rare to you, what's your initial thought?
My initial thought is instantly Perfect Dark.
Nice.
Because I think GoldenEye gets too much credit because of the movie. In fact, when they went to do Tomorrow Never Dies, they were outbid by Activision, Acclaim, whoever it was. And I was just thinking, why would they even care? Because the game GoldenEye is nothing like the video, like the movie.
Yeah.
Like they'll just take a 10-second scene from the movie and make a giant level out of it with a completely unique story. So it was never really the game GoldenEye. It was just marketed that way, And probably for good reason, since GoldenEye sold a lot better than Perfect Dark.
Yeah.
So they were onto something. But Perfect Dark is better in absolutely every single way.
Yeah. I think Perfect Dark holds such a strong place in my childhood because we never owned a Nintendo 64, but my brother's friend did, and he came over every Saturday. He brought the Nintendo 64 and 4 controllers. I was always left with the grey one, the boring one. The default one. I was the youngest. That's just how it went, And he brought over Perfect Dark, and it was just one of first person shooters, but all the different modes, the different challenges, the different characters that you could create. We all kind of had characters from the story. So my brother's mate who owned the game, he played as Joanna Dark, obviously the protagonist. Graham played as Jonathan, who, even though the graphics weren't great, he often said he looked like Jonathan, or Jonathan looked like him. I don't know. I mean, you couldn't really see Jonathan, but that's what my brother thought.
I was an Agent Blonde guy myself.
Agent Blonde, okay, cool. Because we'll get to Mr. Blonde or Agent Blonde in a bit, because I was left with Dr. Foster, and my brother played as Dr. Grimshaw. I think were the two that we had. So the kind of pretty
nerdy
average,
characters,
the nerdy characters, the Otacons of Metal Gear Solid. But the modes in that Like the games that you could play in that game were some of the funniest stuff, and you had like the cheats, like the big heads. And for people who don't know, this is a first person shooter and one of the earliest iterations of a great first person shooter. And GoldenEye came out prior to Perfect Dark, right?
Yep, 1996 or 1997. I think it was 1999 to 2000 when Perfect Dark launched. So quite close to the end of the N64's life cycle.
Yeah. And man, did it make the most of it, because it was just, I'll never forget, like the thing that happened every Saturday was my brother's friend would come over and we'd look at the list of challenges. And the challenges would have 4 stars under each of them to say that you've completed the challenge with 1 player, 2 player, 3 players, 4 players. And my brother's mate was a completionist, you know? Mm-hmm. So he was like, hey, I'm bringing this over and we're doing all these challenges together. But for each added player that you had doing these challenges, the difficulty increased exponentially. And there was a particular King of the Hill round. I think, I could be wrong here, but I think Challenge 32 comes to mind just as a thing in my brain, like, because they were all just numbered, you know. But Challenge 32 was this King of the Hill, with these like assassin sims. So the great thing about Perfect Dark was that all
that would
these
have been like a dark sim or a perfect sim. I can't remember which one was the most difficult, but the way they had the AI technology in that game was just absolutely incredible. Like, you know, with the turtle sims or the speed sims, and it was just AI with slightly changed parameters, but you feared them based on their name.
Wait, explain this a little bit to me, the giant ignorant baby. So the AI behave differently.
So the AI in Perfect Dark is still the greatest AI I've ever seen in a shooter. And in fact, even in all the Halos and all that type of stuff, it's always just human players, like, you know. Whereas in Perfect Dark, you could play 4-player with your friends, but it would still be a 6-on-6 match with you, a friend, and then 4 AI controlled players who you could kit out. You could change their AI to suit whatever you wanted. So what you could do is you could go with a speedy sim who had less health but moved twice as quickly. Oh, okay. You could use a turtle sim who had like a shield that like absorbed hits, but he was really slow. So I mean, it was like the Matrix. They're like inputting all these parameters to make these different AI kind of agents, you know, to go against you. And there was so many different types. Like there was a revenge sim who would only target the person who killed him, and he would ignore everyone else. There's a rocket sim who would literally only use like
launchers.
Grenades, launchers, or anything that could blow up, and he would go around like crazy, just firing off randomly. Like, it was insane, you know.
That sounds really obnoxious.
But it was like, but the modes you could create. So this Challenge 32 thing had, like you said, either 2 dark sims or 2 perfect sims. Only 2. So we're playing four people. So you think you've got the advantage. But these 2 sims were unbelievable, and there was always King of the Hill. And what would happen is you'd run to the hill, you'd have to hold it for a certain amount of time, and then it would ping off and appear somewhere else in the level, and you have to run to it and get it there. And there was always this one spot, because we're in this temple level, there was always this one spot where it would be this big, massive open area. Kind of, you're inside the temple, but a big open area inside the temple. And the doors into the temple were like the big rock doors. So the temple doors basically opening. You'd hear them go, you know, like the whole thing lifting. And we would stand in, the 4 of us, right? And like, you know, I was maybe, what we're talking about, 2000. So I was like 10, 11, doing my best in this game. And you would, all 4 of us would be like cowering in this, like, cause the hill is now in this pyramid place, and we'd be cowering there, and you'd hear the door open. You'd be like, which door is it? You know, like, you know, these perfect sims are coming to hunt you, and they were so difficult to beat. But it was just like that. And like, they had the opposite as well. You had these guys called meat sims, and I love that they were called meat sims, because they were like the easiest.
Do they just run at you? And
run at you. Rarely even fire, and if they do, they'll miss. They're just kind of aiming up and down.
They're the stormtroopers of Perfect Dark.
Exactly.
And I don't know if anybody else did this, but there's a level called Facility, which was taken straight out of GoldenEye, wasn't it? Yeah. And it's kind of it's a facility, but upstairs there's like these toilets, and in the toilets there's a vent that you can go.
I know exactly where you're going with this, right?
So to up our stats and to get certain rewards that we needed to kind of like, you know, get whatever achievements or whatever you want in the game, we used to do this thing where we would set up a level where we would have 8 meat sims, or whatever you want to say, maybe 1 perfect sim just for funsies, and you'd go up to the facility toilet and you'd close the door and just pack it full of proximity mines.
So there's only one way in.
Yeah, there's only one way in. And what one person would do is one person would get into the vent with this weapon called the Farsight.
Oh, I know what the Farsight is.
Yeah, everyone knows what the Farsight is.
Legendary.
Like literally an X-ray weapon that would look through the entire level, and you could focus in on someone and shoot them from anywhere in the level. And it was amazing. And that's what we used to do, was just like try and find the perfect sim, because you could X-ray see them, but you
for anyone who doesn't know, if you've seen that movie Eraser, it's that like gun that can like see through walls and shoot through walls.
Yeah.
So you can essentially just shoot anyone without any sort of resistance.
Yeah, and that was I remember so many times sitting with my brother that I would be like just down there, and I would just be hooking proximity mines on the door all the time while he was up in the vent getting all the kills with the Farsight, and that was I like as a
Stick
kid.
a few laptop guns in the corner just in case.
Guns, yeah. And that was the thing as well about it is I think of games with very clever designs for weapons and things like that, and that had like the CMP 150s, like all these things. When we're
it
talking
even had
about
a cloaking device, where you could literally just press a button and just disappear,
that's
and nobody
cool.
could see you. But what was great, and it didn't make it broken, is when you couldn't fire your weapon while you were cloaked.
Yeah.
So you had to decloak, and it would take a couple of seconds for your shield to come down before the game would let you fire. So it balanced the
that's quite
cloaking
good.
device.
That is interesting. I wonder if Perfect Dark is the first game to do like a cloaking device that gets killed off by shooting or by like trying to shoot, because that's been in a lot of games. Like Halo had that, and
did they?
yeah. Well, like you could go invisible, you could have active camo, but as soon as you started to fire your weapon, your active camo would wear off while you were firing. So you became vulnerable again. But yeah,
but to have that in a multiplayer scenario against your mates, like you're standing like 6 feet away from them, they can't see you.
Yeah,
and you're just. Although they could look at your screen and then just turn and fire.
It's a screen sniping. Yeah, classic.
Because it was like each weapon had its secondary function,
Yes,
So
I'd forgotten about that. Yeah, completely.
So like there was a weapon called a laptop gun, which was just a great, and it was my favorite gun of all time ever. And it would have this. It was just an assault rifle, and its secondary thing would be that it was a sentry turret. So you'd hold B or whatever button it was, and it would change the secondary fire. And rather than firing,
you just let go, and he would throw it, and wherever it landed, it would just set up. Like
it would stick and like fold in on itself into the form of a sentry gun, and then you just had a sentry gun. So like that, we'd be in the facility toilets, proximity mines, laptop guns, anything else that we could set up. Perfect Dark, man. Great. And great storyline. Yeah. Great. I mean, we're talking about the multiplayer, which was phenomenally good, of course, but the storyline was classic as well. Like, like these alien races, the Mr. Blonde, who was quite like a scary kind of, otherworldly villain or whatever else. And what was Elvis the Martian?
Elvis was the Martian.
The Martian. Is the Martian that used to help you, your little pal around, because you would play the game. The main game had a 2-player co-op, not a 4-player co-op, but a 2-player co-op where you'd play as Joanna Dark and Jonathan or Elvis.
A girl who looked just like Joanna, but she had blonde hair. I don't know what her actual name was, but yeah, you could play the solo campaign co-op, which was incredible for its time. Like.
Yeah, and like the audio for that game, like I'm even while I'm talking about these things, I can hear the sound of the laptop.
I also can hear the music playing as soon as you said that.
Like the menu music, the certain weapons that you'd fire, like the Reaper gun as well was a certain weapon that you the Mauler. All these, my god, all these.
The Cyclone, things. Which just like the ammo even went like through the gun
as you fired it. Yeah,
like it was the first time in a video game I think I'd ever seen where, like in GoldenEye, when you reloaded, he aimed the gun down and aimed the gun up, and the reload happens. Whereas in Perfect Dark, the clip came out and it went back in, and you'd snap it and you'd do all the stuff. I know every game now has that, but I had never seen that at the time. I don't know if it was the first.
That level of detail.
It's interesting. Like you guys are talking about Perfect Dark, and I have very little reference for this, but everything that you're mentioning is bringing up memories for me of Time Splitters.
Well, there's the same guys who made Time Splitters.
Right.
Too.
I was going to say, is that the fraction that, so like Rare went on, did a bunch of things, and there was lots of splinter factions from Rare.
Yeah.
And one of them, we mentioned the name before the podcast, but I can't remember it. But one of the groups from Rare made Time Splitters. And when I played Perfect Dark, I was like, oh yeah, this is Time Splitters before Time Splitters existed. Like this is, because again, like such fond memories of that game. But yeah, that's.
And Time Splitters had a similar thing. Like the Time Splitters games tended to have the AI was quite clever, and that you get very difficult bots in it, and the customization and stuff. Yeah, because it was a real like Perfect Dark for the seriousness that the main storyline had. Like it was quippy as well. Like Elvis as a Martian had like real funny things to say, and all the different types of characters you could have in a if you were doing a multiplayer game with loads of AI, you could have loads of AI of different. You could put a Martian's head on Mr. Blonde's body if you wanted. You could just like kind of customize the AI before you threw them in. And that definitely carried over to something like Time Splitters, which like was just goofy and fun, but like as a multiplayer first-person shooter, it was quality, like high quality. Yeah, really, Time Splitters is an unbelievably good game. Yeah. Man, I could talk about Perfect Dark for so long.
But even like just like GoldenEye, like depending on what difficulty you did, and I love this in one-player games. Like if you went in and did it on the easy setting, like Agent or whatever, you you kind of beeline straight for the finish line, just kill a bunch of enemies, and then it's mission over. But on the harder difficulties, there's far more things to interact with. And Perfect Dark, similar to GoldenEye with the gadgets, but Perfect Dark takes that to a whole new level. Like in most levels, you'll have to use your spy camera to like go to an event and like listen in on a conversation between a bunch of people. But your spy camera could even like fire weapons and stuff like that. But like the gadgets in Perfect Dark were just absolutely next level.
Sounds like Hitman level of like thought throughness, like the way they design their levels. And I know what you're talking about as well, like that where if you up the difficulty, the game devs actually give you more shit that you have to do to progress through the level.
Exactly.
That always feels like, really rewarding.
For me as a kid, I was like, I'd always do it on the easiest. I was a coward. I always did it on the easiest difficulties and cleared the game. And I was like, I did it, amazing. But then I'm like, I'll give the harder difficulties a shot. I'm like, oh my god, it's like a whole new game because I'm getting all this extra stuff to do
that
cool. The originals didn't want me to do, and it's just an excuse to use all these great gadgets, like, you know.
Yeah, a classic, an unbelievably good game, and I'm glad we started on that one. But I guess, Luke, to put it to you, if I were to say Rare, what comes to your mind?
Sea of Thieves.
A game I never played.
Yeah. Oh no, great game. Like it's so funny though.
It's been patched about a bunch of times now, right? As of 2022. I think
my god, yeah,
massively patched.
The biggest criticism I had when it came out was that it was a fantastic game in which there just wasn't a lot to do, and they've kind of been working really hard at that ever since then, like putting content into the game, and now there's bloody loads of stuff to do in that game. It's great. It's so fun to just drop in on, especially like, not to toot the Games Pass horn again, but because it's on Games Pass and I can just pick it up whenever. I've never paid for it, I just pick it up and play it. It's really lovely to go in and just get a little pirate ship, like get even the tiniest pirate ship, and just go exploring and be like, a lot of what you can do in that game is telegraphed in the clouds and in the distance. So you just see a cloud that's like shaped like a skull in the distance, and you go, oh, what's that? And you just take your little ship and go over to it, and on the way you run into other pirates who try and mess you up, who are actual people. It's a quality game. It really is.
But in terms of content, was there a lot to do other than fire cannons?
Now, yeah, there's tons. So like, there's loads of islands, there's loads of quests, there's loads of it's all themed very differently, and there's like all these different expansions and stuff if you do get super into it and you want to go down that route. But yeah, it's kind of at the base level of it, it's just a really beautifully, really well fleshed out pirate game where the feel of it has always been so good. Like, you go in, you start off in the tavern, like you make your pirate, you go out to the dock where your ship is, that like you select your ship before you load in. There's different classes of ships based on how many people you're going to be playing with, and there is one ship that they didn't do this for a long time, but there's one ship where you can it's basically a 1 to 2 person ship, and running it with one person is hard, but it is possible, and that's what I do a lot of the time. And it's really fast. Like, it's a tiny ship, one of the faster ships in the game, but if you get spotted by a bigger ship, they're probably going to chase you down until they kill you. And then like even the death, when you get killed off in that game, you get sent to Davy Jones's locker, and you have to choose to respawn, and then you come back on your ship, and usually your ship's on fire when you come back. It's just there's a lot there. There's a lot of meat to it now, and it's a very fun experience to go through. I'd love to go on like a big tirade about it and like keep fleshing this out, but I recommend, like, especially if people out there listening have Game Pass, download it and give it a go. Like, you can get it on PC or Xbox. Like, if you don't have an Xbox and you have PC Game Pass, like, definitely give it a shot, and just because it's like the art style in it is gorgeous. My only experience of it is watching, very casually watching, there's a YouTuber or it's like a Twitch streamer or whatever else, and I've seen it just came up on my like YouTube Shorts algorithm for a while. He kept popping up, but he dresses as Jack Sparrow. Like, you have the small picture of him as streaming and the picture of the game, but he does an incredible Jack Sparrow impression, and it's all of him, like, you know, getting some of the, you know, robbing, like, you know, hopping onto other people's boats, trying to take over their boats, and he goes, "This day along with whatever it is, Jack Sparrow," like he's doing all the Jack Sparrows. That was a terrible impression of Jack Sparrow myself, but like, I watched that being like, this looks like a fun game. If I could do a Jack Sparrow impression,
experience the game.
Like, and he's going full pirate, like, you know. But I was watching that being like, that looks like fun.
Yeah, most people who play it seem to descend into that kind of pirate role play when they do, just like shit. And it's really fun as well, because like there's basically one of your like carryable equipment things is this like horn where you can magnify your voice to another ship, and like to hear people shout at your ship and like pirate speak, me like, "Yar, where do you think ye be going?" and that kind of thing. And it's really cool. The community is super cool. They've put a lot of love into the game at this stage, and it really shows. It was like when it came out, it was a solid game that didn't have a lot of game to it, and now it's a solid game with loads of content. You can pour like loads of hours into it and you'll get a lot back. The community is cool. I've had a few experiences with it where I'm not sure what's going on, and kind of Darren, like your experiences with Final Fantasy 14, someone comes over to you and is like, hey, do you need a hand like figuring stuff out? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know, what do I do with this treasure chest now that I have it? And they're like, oh yeah, bring it over here. I've had a few people like walk
Nothing like
me
it, man.
through.
Good communities in
Oh,
gaming,
man.
that's all you want.
It's really lovely. So I recommend Sea of Thieves. That's the majority of my experience with Rare, but also like Xbox Game Pass has like all the Rare replay stuff. So I've played a few hours of Banjo-Kazooie. I have played, I don't know if I set up GoldenEye to download. That one just came out the other day.
The new one they've just made.
Yeah, I don't know what that's going to be like, but it's just there. So like most things on Game Pass, it's there. So I'll give it a shot and see what it's like. But it's that's more or less it. Banjo-Kazooie is kind of, when I think of Rare, I kind of think of Banjo-Kazooie because it just seems to have affected so many people's lives in such a
Well, we only
strong way.
had, like when we did our Christmas episode, you couldn't speak highly enough of Banjo-Kazooie.
Yeah, which is another reason I won't do it again today. But like Banjo-Kazooie is like the Rare like creation. Yes. Like it's even like out of all the characters in Smash Brothers that people wanted, Banjo was just always a front runner because it seemed like based on his history but with Nintendo in the 90s, like the very first Smash Brothers, he should have been in there.
Yeah, you know? As like what was it, 12 characters in the first one or whatever
exactly,
it was?
Yeah. And the fact that Luigi was in it then, you know.
Listen, great. So
there was empty spots up for filling. You know?
My first gripe of what you said was a front runner. I'll have you know that Sakurai came out and said that Sora was the front runner always. Just putting it out there.
I meant for the original game, but no, like the more the years have gone on, it makes less sense for Banjo to be in Smash Bros.
But I'm so glad he made the cut in the end. And it was interesting because, like, you know, as you said, if this was Nintendo pre-2002, or let's say Microsoft never took it over, Banjo would have always been a shoe-in. Yeah. But with the Microsoft acquisition, there was always this doubt about, well, is Nintendo really going to cut a deal with Xbox or Microsoft to get Banjo back into that realm? So glad that he did. But yeah, Banjo was an amazing game, great soundtrack, great levels, a really original 3D platformer. For those who didn't know what I was talking about at the intro to this episode, he's the bear with the bird pal.
It's funny because in the game they did earlier, one of their first kind of cartoony games, they did Battletoads, which is massive. Like, and anyone who's a fan of Teenage Ninja Turtles would love that game. It's very, very similar, except they've just big, massive feet and lips and stuff like that. It's quite weird. But in 1991, the first game they did, I think, for the N64 was Diddy Kong Racing. And in that, they like introduced all these characters. So Banjo was actually in that game.
That's right, yeah.
And
I did hear that.
also Conker from Conker's Bad Fur Day.
Before their actual games.
So Rare was starting to set up their own kind
MCU.
of, their own cinematic universe with gaming. And then they were slowly putting in all these characters, which it's annoying because like there was this deadly tiger named Timber who was so cute. And like, I just wish he had gotten his own game. He was probably going to be next. Because there was Timber and there was a turtle. So you could look at the cast of Diddy Kong Racing and go, man, all of these guys probably would have got their own game in time
had they
it
lasted.
kept going. Because like Banjo was next and then Conker a couple of years later. Like,
I think speaking of Diddy Kong Racing, we wouldn't be doing Rare justice if we didn't talk about the Donkey Kong Country series. And Chris would also kick our asses because I think he is very much stated that Donkey Kong Country 2 is probably up there with one of his favorite games of all time. But for anybody who hasn't played Donkey Kong Country and has the Switch and has the Super Nintendo Entertainment System on that, which is free to download, Donkey Kong Country is free also to play on that, and it's a must, I think.
I played it on Friday for the first time with my girlfriend, and she whooped me. She was absolutely amazing at it, and I was left like speechless as to like, what the hell am I doing wrong? I've thought I've played platformers before, but it's really, really difficult, but in a really good way, you know? And it doesn't open with like a green zone or just Forest Hill type of level. You're immediately on a pirate ship in the heat of everything, like, you know? Like, it really just took risks very quickly, you know.
That was the first Donkey Kong game that had been made since the OG one, was it?
Donkey Kong Country, correct us if we're wrong here on the Gift of Gaming podcast at gmail.com. I'm just throwing it in there whenever I can. Nice. But yes, I can think of Donkey Kong making an appearance in between that moment of that original Donkey Kong Mario game where you're climbing up the girders and then Donkey Kong Country. I can't think of another time he made an appearance.
Because he's not actually in Donkey Kong Country 2, or is it called Diddy Kong Country
So no,
2? I'm not
it's
sure what it's called.
the second one is called, I think. Oh, Chris is going to kill us. Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy Kong's Adventure, or
Okay, because
something
he's
like
not
that.
in it, right? It's Diddy Kong and then this girl.
Yes. So in the first one, it's Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong, and I have to say, I have that game. Looking at it now, as a person who's played a lot of video games and can look back on it and judge it for what I believe it should have been back in 1994, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal how good it looks. It's phenomenal how well it plays, and the soundtrack. I have not. Even still now, I struggle to find games that were as atmospheric as Donkey Kong Country. And it sounds mad to think that this is the 2D platformer from 1994 done by Nintendo and Rare. I would compare it atmosphere-wise with the likes of like Journey, like those indie ones that really just made you just, because there's the first two levels in Donkey Kong Country. You're kind of at the beginning, and there's no thing to teach you the controls. You're just jumping around and trying to figure it out. But it's the music. And it's like, the first level is like this real upbeat, like dun 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 bum bum ba-dum, ba-dum, and you're like, wow, and it's really good music, and that's kind of like, hey, this is a fun game. And then you get to the second level, and it's lashing rain. There's a thunderstorm, and it's all like do do do, ba-na-na, and you're like, oh wow, that's pretty pensive and pretty dark. It was like music wise, level design. I was like, this is, and it's a pity because it came out when I was 3. I didn't play it till years later, when we used to plug back in the Super Nintendo. But my God, as a game, it holds up so well, and I can see why, because I think talking to Chris, I never played the second one, but talking to Chris, he was like, they improved on everything. Yeah. Everything just got better in the second one. You played it the weekend.
I'm someone who doesn't play old games. Like if I didn't like it at the time, then I move on, and I don't come back. So I'm like, no, because something better exists now, surely. Yeah. But that was a joy to play.
That's nice.
And some of my favorite, and it sticks with me forever, one of my favorite levels. If we were to do an episode, let's say a podcast episode on our favorite levels on 2D platformers or something like that, that actually sounds like a pretty good idea.
It does, actually.
I'm going to hold that thought. But one of the ones that would definitely fall in my list was when you got much later on in Donkey Kong Country, there was this mining cart level.
Oh, I've seen this. I've seen gameplay from this.
Unbelievably difficult, but so satisfying. And it would have, again, music-wise, it was like quite intense. It was real, like kind of Indiana Jones action. You got to get out of here type thing. And you're in a minecart, and you're flying down these tracks, and the tracks are broken in so many places, and you got to make the jump. And I can even hear the sound of like the jumping minecart and it landing again. But we had a slot on our Super Nintendo. I think there was 3 save files, and one of them was a pretty much fully complete one. And for years, every now and again, I'd like plug in the Super Nintendo to try and beat the likes of Aladdin or Mickey Mouse, because they were incredibly challenging games with no save points. And I was always like, maybe I can do this. I never could. Those games fucking impossibly hard. But Donkey Kong Country, I always revisited, loaded up that complete save file, walked to the island where the minecart level was, and redid it all the time, because it was so good and so difficult. Can't recommend it enough. Yeah, so you can't.
I think that's now a staple in all the Donkey Kong games. Like, there's always a mine cart level because it's just so infamous that they just always go with that now. Because it's just something everyone looks forward to.
Yeah, and they had cute like animals that you could, if you collected let's say 3 ostrich statues in a level, you'd end up getting an ostrich and be able to run around on an ostrich. Or on the level waters, there was a swordfish and there was a rhino. Now people will know all the names of these who are proper fans. I'm obviously not a proper fan. But even that, for a 1994 game, to have these mounts, essentially, that would change the level entirely for you. And again, still graphically amazing. Like I could even see in my head right now the rhino could trash open secret walls and stuff for you, and it all looked like, for 1994, it all looked so good. I'm thinking of like other things that would have been around 1994, like the old Final Fantasy games that were popping out in 94, 95, those even 2D pixel ones. Like,
compared to a Mario game, that was the best that Nintendo could do at the time without Rare, was like a Mario game that had slightly more pixels and more color palettes, but it didn't have full like models. I know that models move in 2D, but they were full like rendered models.
Yeah.
And nothing compared. Like, Rare just kind of cracked some formula on how to speak to the hardware, and they were just like showboat.
And the level design, like the backgrounds of those levels, like you think of, one of the things that myself and my friend Danny do year on year is go back and play Super Mario Bros. 3. Like, religiously, we'll always complete that every year. We'll go back and do it. I love the game. Some of the greatest platforming gameplay that exists.
Per backgrounds.
Terrible backgrounds. But like, now again, I could be wrong. I think that game 1990. That game actually could be 93, 94.
But even if you play the new Super Mario Brothers games on the Wii U or the ones on the Switch, they always just have a generic sky background or a generic whatever it is, and it never changes, you know.
But there was cold mountain levels, and you could feel the blizzard blowing in the background, the lightning with the rain, and I was like, whoa, like this is insane. And I think it definitely, and it's a pity, because if Rare still existed today as it did then, I think Donkey Kong as a character would be a huge,
I think so,
a huge IP. Like, up on the level with Mario, would be having these games, fighting it out, because back then, and they made 3 of them, and I could have, and they still make them on the DS, I think.
Well, no, they made, because Retro Studios took over, because once Rare were bought out by Microsoft, they had to give the license back to Donkey Kong, because Nintendo were never giving up Donkey Kong, so Retro Studios made the Donkey Kong games for the Wii and Wii U
and the 3DS, and
they've been really, really well received, and have really captured the spirit of Rare. But there hasn't been one since 2014, and I've no idea why. They had very popular.
The Frozen, there was a Frozen Island,
Tropical Freeze.
Tropical Freeze.
That was the third one in the series, and it's critically acclaimed.
Yeah, class. And it had it did really bring me back to the early days of Donkey Kong Country. But it's that's what I mean. It's such a pity that Rare went the way that it did. Understandably so. I mean, look, Microsoft was a huge thing, and you think an acquisition in 2002 would have meant big things for Rare, and unfortunately it didn't go that way.
Oh, God, it was so sad looking through the history. Like the amount of projects that you come across with Rare, where it was like, oh yeah, Rare were really gearing up to do this. Like 2015, they were gearing up to do this big Conker's Bad Fur Day reunion game. And it was like, yeah, project cancelled. And going back even further, I remember I was...
But that's kind of resting on there. They'd already remade Conker's Bad Fur Day on the Xbox. So I'm just like, if they're... And then they did the Rare game, the Rare Pass, same year you're talking about. I'm like, if they're just focused on remakes, then they know their best years are behind them.
Yes.
That could have been Daddy Microsoft trying to cash in on some nostalgia there. I wouldn't be surprised. But then there was, another thing that kind of comes up when I think of Rare is, I've said it to you before, Craig, but Viva Pinata came out in 2006, and that was great at the time. I remember on the Xbox store you could get a demo of Viva Pinata that was literally just the whole game with no saving function. So if you wanted to play the full game, if you had to pay retail price, you got the full game and you could save your game, or you could do the demo and just play it for as long as you'd leave your Xbox turned on, which wasn't a famously good idea back then because they used to melt the motherboards. But Viva Pinata was incredible, and it was really well received. The only problem with it is it came out the same year. So obviously at this stage, Rare is a Microsoft company. Mm-hmm. It came out the same year that Gears of War came out. And Microsoft saw the sales for Gears of War and were like, well, I guess it's these guys. I guess we're giving it to the Gears guy. The big muscly dudes with the chainsaws are selling a lot of games, so they're the ones who are going to get the spotlight. I think
that's fair, though. I mean, when the 360 launched, 2 of the launch titles were Rare games: Perfect Dark Zero and Cameo Elements of Power.
Oh yeah,
both disasters.
And
they did it okay, but I mean, both those games were supposed to come out on the GameCube, and Cameo Elements of Power looked amazing for years. And the fact that it was shelved and then just thrown out years later as a launch title for the 360. I mean, they clearly hadn't done the extra work in it after they had switched over from Nintendo to Microsoft.
It's one of those things that always pains me when you've got such a great original thing and its sequel is horrifically disappointing. Perfect Dark, we've talked enough about it already earlier on, but Perfect Dark Zero as the successor, the sequel, the whole, hey, we're bringing Perfect Dark back in 2005, I was like, excellent. Now, I didn't own an Xbox, but if there was ever a thing to pull me to buy an Xbox, that might have been it. And it came out, and I was reading reviews.
Well, they instantly
it's not great.
Made it more cartoony. You know? So they just removed that kind of realistic art style that made Perfect Dark so popular.
I saw the trailers or the images and stuff come from it, and I was like, this isn't Perfect Dark. Why'd you
can we move on to something a bit more graphic, perhaps?
Yeah. We're all grown up and a bit more serious. But in terms of, because Rare made a whole selection of games, and one I'm going to bring up here is, I think, is one of the best titled video games ever. It's not a great game, but if I was ever to name a video game, Jet Force Gemini.
Oh,
what a name! And it's there's so little of it I remember it, with the exception of the multiplayer. Another Rare game, but we're going back now towards Perfect Dark.
We've kind of been all over the place, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Another game by Rare at some point in its history. Go check it out. But this was a game, I was quite young playing it, but animation-wise, and Luke, as a person who animates things, you might appreciate this. One of the things I always loved about this game, and I was like, do I remember that correctly? Is this a nostalgic little Darren remembering this thing incorrectly? But I watched a video earlier on today of just the characters running around in the multiplayer. The animation, the movement of the characters. So for those who don't know, Jet Force Gemini was like a, I guess for the campaign was like a one player, kind of like a Star Fox Adventure in space type thing with unusual characters. But then there was a multiplayer, which was just the 4 of you against each other with a bit of a shoot 'em up with like a handful of weapons or whatever. And it was the third person. So behind, is that correct? Behind the character? Third person shooter. But I loved how the characters moved. As a kid, it just really, and the art style was quite funky as well. And as a kid, I loved that game. I've watched videos of it since and been like, it's not a great game. And
I tried playing it a couple of times, and it is rough. Like the aiming kind of goes all over the place and stuff. But it was very fun, and like it had a cute style. And
what I used to do with that game was, so sometimes we got a lend of the Nintendo 64 from my brother's mate. He might leave it with us for a week, and I was like, wow. And on a Saturday morning, I might feign that I was sick, that I wouldn't go swimming. So my brothers would go swimming, and I wouldn't, and I'd be there left with the Nintendo 64. And I'd be like, okay, here we go. And what I used to do was I used to put Jet Force Gemini into the Nintendo 64, plug in 4 controllers, and do a 4-player map. Select 4 characters. But I just ran around and explored the level. I guess something about the arts and the levels were small. Like they weren't great, and they were all like just this perfect square level with a couple of objects in it. But at whatever age or whatever way the art style was on it, it fascinated me when I was younger. That I would just run around as this character, checking out every nook and cranny and every multiplayer level, which now, when I think about it, would only probably take me about a minute to walk around and be like, well, this is a boring level, I'm out and done. But like, it really pulled me back then. The weapons are really simple and everything. But I just think, like, because that was the thing that annoyed my brothers and my brother's mate as well, is that we'd be playing something like Perfect Dark, or two of them might be having a battle with Pokemon Stadium, and I'd be like, hey, can we put on Jet Force Gemini? It's like, no, Darren, that game's terrible. I'm like, oh, okay. But yeah, like, again, another, I would say a rare gem, a Rareware gem. Just an interesting, because I think one of the characters was like a dog or a
one of the characters was a dog. And there was like their brother and sister, I think.
Yeah. And they're all kind of, they had like
and
antennas
he has a
and
gun
stuff
on his back, and he runs around on all fours.
Just very, like, just a very, and it's the kind of thing that I would have loved a TV show out of, like an animated TV show.
I'd
to
say
Jet Force
it would have
Gemini.
done well. It really did feel like a Saturday morning cartoon.
Yes, yeah. So that's another. I'm trying to think. Do we have any other? Can you think of anything else rare-wise, Craig, that we've missed?
Oh well, we haven't talked about Conker's Bad Fur Day yet.
There we go.
Okay.
There's
I was
the one.
just gearing up for it. Like,
let's round it out with some Conker's Bad Fur
Well, I mean,
Day.
just because I don't want to like gloss over like so many great games that came in the 90s. So I mean, I mentioned Diddy Kong Racing, and then we did have Banjo, and Banjo Tooie is supposed to be really, really good as well. I just never got to play it because it came out so late in the lifestyle. But all of these games now are actually available on that Rare replay thing
Rare
that they
Replay.
made in 2015, which I assume is on Game Pass.
It is.
So I'm going to promote Game Pass here, folks, and tell you that you need to like play some of these games because
What is happening?
it's the best way to
Somebody else.
experience it. And the shortcomings of most of these games, particularly the first-person shooters, are because you played them on an N64 controller. So with modern day controls, like amazing. Like they could only just be 10 times better just based on the control system.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to strafe around corners anymore. Admittedly, I did love doing that though. You know, you went so much faster. But here, I won't waste time on that. That'd be another video by itself. But Conker's Bad Fur Day needs a mention because it was both an amazing game and one that's critically flopped because by the time it came out, the N64 was done. Like PlayStation had conquered and damn it! I wish I thought of that ahead of time. That was on purpose. So PlayStation had taken over, and by the time Conker's Bad Fur Day came out, it was very, very difficult to even buy a copy. I had to get mine for like £70, which was like £15 more expensive than a normal game at the time.
Did you say 70?
£70.
Jesus.
Yeah. Games were 55 back in those days, but this one was £70, and I was like, oh my god, I don't know what's going on with this, but that's the price it was.
That's
and I had
probably
to pay it.
like today. That's probably like £100.
Yes, at least. Yeah. But
adjusting
games
for
were
inflation.
more expensive back then, for sure. Especially N64 games, which had the cartridges. You know,
Yeah.
Right.
they were always about £10 more expensive than a PlayStation game.
And before you crack into Conker's Bad Fur Day, just to kind of put it in perspective, I'd never played this or heard of it, but Colin, your brother, was like talking to me about it, and I was like, this sounds mad, and everything anti-Nintendo as far as I'm
so
concerned.
not Nintendo. So apparently they like if you look at Conker in Diddy Kong Racing, he's a very cutesy squirrel who's just like happy to be there. Not at all like the character who would get his own video game 5 years later. So apparently, like when they were making the game, people were like, it's just so much like Banjo that like will it do well? So they just scrapped the project, started again, and just threw the middle finger up quite literally, and they said like, let's do a kind of 15s, 18s type of game and just throw like a bunch of slander at the wall and see what happens. Like, and all the while they're ripping off famous movies from the last decade. So they rip off Aliens, Terminator, Saving Private Ryan is one of my favorite scenes ever. They do the Beach of Normandy, but with all these squirrels running to try and beat the teddy bear army. Like, so the evil enemy in this game are a bunch of teddy bears.
I like that. I think the one of the clips that Colin had showed me back in the day was, did they do a rip of The Matrix as well, or am I thinking of the Terminator?
So no, you were completely right. That just shows how many there are. But there's a bank. It's one of the final levels, and it's literally the final scene in
The
not
Matrix.
the final scene, but
with the
the
pillars.
bank scene.
Yes,
Yeah.
It's like shot for shot the exact same
Where
sequence.
they walk through the metal detectors and they have all the guns and
That's the exact thing that happens in the trailer. Conker walks through with the briefcase, and the evil henchman's like, please place the metallic objects in the tray. And then like the alarm goes off, and then it's just Conker shooting everyone, and then his girlfriend walks in and blows away one guy, just like Trinity did in Matrix. But then you literally go left to right, and like you just press the B button, which is, Conker would call it context sensitive. So in Conker's Bad Fur Day, the power up, like in Mario games, there'd be a little position that would have the B button beside it. And anytime you got to that, it always gave you exactly what you needed at that moment in time. So in this situation, it just gave him 2 machine guns and like threw him into the air. And the whole time he's in the air, it's completely slow motion, and he's firing the bullets with the bullet time effect. All the while you're taking cover behind the pillars, which are getting wrecked from the machine gun fire, exactly like in the movie. And then when you defeat all the enemies, you go through, Conker and Barry turn around, and the pillar falls down.
Like a perfect
Just like in the movie.
like,
yeah.
and it's kind of like in a way you say maybe is that lazy writing, because they're literally just ripping every other film.
But it's just so, it's like, do you know how The Simpsons was so popular in the early seasons? They were just ripping stuff off, like, you know,
Yeah.
like
it's
just
all,
left, right, and
all
center.
homage. Like it's all
Yes.
Homage, because it's different characters doing it. Whereas in this, it's a cutesy squirrel and his girlfriend just tearing into the blood everywhere, like, you know.
This actually sounds great. I really
People
wanna,
getting ripped to pieces.
sounds like the Matrix game we never got. Like it's
But like that's only like the one level, and the thing that I'm fascinated about by it is there curse words, bad language, like, and
so
quite
the F word is bleeped out, but they would say Earthen and like with the bleep, and you would know exactly what they were saying.
yeah.
But the word bastard is used constantly throughout the game, like, you know. And
Like, imagine-
me as a 12-year-old kid, I'm like laughing my ass off every single
like
time.
imagine being a kid being like, Mom, can I get this cute like Nintendo game Conker's Bad Fur Day? You're like, what's the worst that could happen in this
There's
game?
a scene in this game where one, like, a pitchfork character, he's a boss, and he's beaten by Conker, and he's so ashamed that he goes to hang himself. And his fellow like paint can friends are just like, everything is alive in this game. Like, any object has googly eyes and can talk.
Yeah.
Whereas in this, like, the paint cans in the room are just like, you stupid bastard. Like, they're hillbilly, like, paint cans, and they're just, he doesn't even have a neck. What the fuck is he doing trying to kill himself? And he's up there like, I don't even have a neck. What am I going to do? And he's just swinging there like an idiot, like, and they're laughing at him, calling him a bastard.
And it's like it's weird that, like, because that game opens, I'm assuming, with the Nintendo logo.
Yes, it would have
Which
to,
is insane to think that they ever let that through the door. Like, you know,
I want to get this on Game Pass tonight. I want to go up and start this.
Oh, it's just, and they did a remake on the Xbox where, like, they made it quite realistic and they added lots of fur effects and stuff like that. But it doesn't have the same charm, like, you know. It just seems more serious, and like Conker's just full of jokes, and they hit more with the whimsical good nature of those kind of characters and how, like, colorful and bright they are. Like, the very first thing that happened in Conker, like, is he's out on a piss up with his friends, and he's ringing his girlfriend Barry, and he's lying to her about when he'll be home. And then the very next scene, he strolls out of the house, and then he just walks off randomly. And the whole game is him just trying to get home. But he can't, and he's hung over to bits, like, you know. And you go through all these different worlds, all these different adventures,
like, it's such
all the while him just trying to get back to his guy.
such a lazy, like, people were like, we need one last game to get out the door before Nintendo or the Nintendo 64 kicks in. And it's just like, it just sounds so lazy, but like, as you said, homage. Like, you know, you can't go wrong with homage.
But the Beach of Normandy scene is literally that scene from the movie as well, where, like, you know, the the boats show up on the beach, and as soon as like the door opens,
Everyone gets
heads
shot.
gets blown off, and there's one guy, there's even a squirrel running there, and he picks up his arm and walks off, like just in the movie and stuff. People getting annihilated with flamethrowers. It's just,
But it's okay because they're squirrels.
And it's okay because they're squirrels.
Yeah.
Like, but narratively, it still all makes sense, and it's a good like the main plot, other than
Him trying to get home.
The main villain can't drink his milk because one of the legs off his table broke. So anytime he puts his milk on the table, it falls off the table and breaks, and it always makes him angry. So his scientist is coming up with all these sort of strategies to fix the table. Like he's doing all these major calculations and stuff, and then he draws up on the boards, the only thing that'll work is a squirrel. It's the perfect size to like tape to under the table to fix it. So the main plot of the video game is that this evil panther king
Just wants a squirrel.
wants to get his hands on a red squirrel so that he can drink his milk.
Like it, I stuff like that. I don't know how it gets out the door, but I'm glad it did, because like there's stuff like that that's bad that gets out the door and is bad, and then you've got things like Conker's Bad Fur Day, which is just, as you said, like a bit of a flop, but with a massive cult following today.
But a great game and a fantastic multiplayer, which, I mean, do I even have time to talk about? Well, I'm just going to. I don't care. But like, there was they even think of doing modes like, okay, let's do the Beach of Normandy, but in a multiplayer situation. So what they have done is a few people get to play as the squirrels, usually 2 to 3 human characters, and then a bunch of AI so that the teddies have something to shoot. So basically, they have to like run up the beach and just get to like the doors leading out to the outside world or whatever. But the teddies, meanwhile, are up in their trenches with sniper rifles, with rocket launchers, with machine gun turrets, and it's pitch black. And the squirrels have to just get up the beach and just get to safety. But there's all these different routes. There's multiple routes they can take, and the teddies can't watch everything at once. There's only 2 of them.
Yeah.
Whereas there's lots of squirrels, you know? So they're all racing up, and like a squirrel might hold back and like watch his friend get killed so that he can make a bolt for it. So there's all these strategies of watching your friend die to try and get ahead, like, you know? And it's just one of those great games that, like, especially if you're playing split screen multiplayer and the teddy, like the people playing as the teddies are watching your screen. Hey, stop cheating! Stop cheating!
Like, that classic thing. I saw a great image of like people playing like that, like a first person shooter, trying to find each other, and it was a split screen top and bottom, and they made one guy sit in front of the TV, and they sellotaped a cardboard box to the TV, and it just rested on his head, so he could see his bottom half of the TV, and his mate was looking at the top half. This is like them playing a really old game. Like nowadays, it's the only way you could do it without actually people watching. But yes, split screen couch co-op, likes of Perfect Dark, stuff, fantastic.
But because this stuff isn't really giving it justice, so for anyone listening, I would even say like just type in Conker's Bad Fur Day, funniest laughs or best bits, and you'll be in stitches within 15 seconds.
So I guess what we've gotten from this episode about Rare is that it's kind of a bit of a lament, because although they have the likes of Sea of Thieves and Viva Pinata and other things, it's definitely this thing that just kind of petered out over time after the acquisition in 2002. And it's so sad because, like we said, the likes of Donkey Kong or like a proper sequel to Perfect Dark, had Rare still been Rareware by itself, who knows what we
could have got. Like. And we didn't even talk about GoldenEye because it's just been talked to death. Like, and for me, Perfect Dark is the better game.
Yes, I agree.
Which many don't, because they've only heard of GoldenEye. But like Perfect Dark is just on another level. Yeah. Like, you know.
So if you haven't experienced Rare games, listeners out there, anybody who's still listening to us, go play some. Go play Perfect. If you can get your hands on Perfect Dark in any way, shape, or form, play the hell out of that game. One of the best first-person shooters. Go check out Conker's Bad Fur Day. I feel like I'm a rep for old Rareware right now. But yeah, that's Rare in a nutshell, guys. I hope you enjoyed listening to it. Craig, Luke, thank you guys so much for joining me on our Rareware episode. I had to take my time with that one. I almost completely got over it. But so again, for those, this is the week that Hogwarts Legacy comes out. Anybody who wants to be a part of the Gifted Gaming Club, you're picking it up. You want to listen to us in 4 weeks. We can talk about, not a full review because we're not that good and we all have full-time jobs. But we'll talk about whatever we played about the game in a month's time. And in the meantime, Craig, Luke, thanks for joining. And for you out there, keep enjoying the gift that is gaming.
Thank you so much.
Peace out.
Bye-bye.